On this episode of the Empower podcast,
questioning why did it happen?
It takes the average person 7 years to leave their perpetrators.
Teaching our sons to respect everyone. Although every story is different, there's a similarity in each and every one of them.
One thing that we can do as a community is to not tell people to leave.
It's not your fault. You're not to blame.
Hello and welcome back to the Empower podcast. I'm your host, Robbi Stevens. Thank you so much for joining us on this exciting journey together, sharing and empowering the many incredibly brave people whose stories have inspired the plots and characters in our films. Welcome, Sev.
Hi, Robbi.
So lovely to have you here. Today's episode comes with a trigger warning, so if you're sensitive to this subject, just consider if now is the right time for you to listen. But our intention, as always, is to make our podcasts helpful, to make them healing, and for people to feel seen and heard. We are also passionately committed to shaking up the normalization and acceptance of rape and sexual assault in our communities today. Just a little bit of context. Sev is on today as part of the Nightingale season, as she, like Isla's story, has helped and stood by people. In fact, Sev, you did an incredible thing for other women where you organised and reached out to women who'd suffered from domestic abuse. So what led you to do that?
Well, as you said, I did run a 6-week program, and it was facilitated by myself through a charity organisation in 2021. So it was after the COVID restrictions had been eased and we were allowed to do face-to-face meetings. And it looked at the way abusive partners behave, the traits of abuse. And what led me to do it is I think I had done a similar program a few years before to educate myself about abuse. And being someone that has experienced it myself, I was quite passionate about that. And then when I was approached by the charity, I said I thought I'd go for it. So yeah,
that's amazing. And when you did the course, did you search for it yourself? Did someone offer the course to you? Was it a hard step to actually do it, or were you at your wit's end and just thought, I need to do something about this?
Yeah, I got help myself from an organisation. They had told me about the programme that I didn't know anything about. And yeah, I thought that it was a choice. So they said, you don't have to go on it. It's, it's up to you if you want to go on it or not. And there's one in this month coming up. And I said, great, I'd really like to learn more about that. And yeah, I was interested straight away.
Yeah, and when you were doing it, did you find that the knowledge gave you a lot of strength?
Absolutely. It was definitely empowering. So what the program aims to do is it helps women make sense and understand domestic abuse. It helps women recognise potential future abusers and how abuse impacts on children as well. It empowers and helps women gain self-esteem and confidence.
Wow.
So I believe that it did that for me. So I wanted to pass that knowledge on to other women.
That's great. And were you able to step out of that situation, that abusive situation, and have a better life after that?
Absolutely, yes.
And so now we're going to move on to the actual sort of the heart of what you taught. It's known as something called the rules of the game, which is basically the circle of abuse, and it identifies different traits of perpetrators, doesn't it? And it's all about, from what you've told me and what I've researched, it's all about the beliefs and the excuses to commit violence.
Women are their possessions, like she should obey. So the abusive behaviour comes into play after that. So the tactics of the perpetrator, so to keep those rules in place. So the way they will behave, they will say, oh, I don't want you to go out, or I don't want you to wear that skirt, or they might be their behaviour might be intimidating just to keep those rules in place. So then the next step is she might refuse to follow those rules. So she'll say, no, I am going out with my friends, or I am going to wear that skirt, or I'm going to leave you. She's not complying. She's not going by those rules. So then those beliefs come under threat. So there's a feeling of panic, there's a feeling of powerlessness, there's a feeling of outrage and anger. So the next stage to that circle is the excuses that perpetrator has. So it might be, she's a slut, she's a bad mother, or how dare she disobey me, and he might go to a bar and he might express that outrage and those feelings to his peers, and those peers might believe the same things. men or women. They might believe those things. Yes, how dare she disobey you? How dare she go out when you asked her not to? And then because of those excuses, the violence is acceptable to him. And then the violence come into play. And that's something that resonates with me, because and it was a real eye-opener when I saw the rules of the game, and it's like I understood how it happened and why it happened because of their beliefs. It made sense. It finally made
because
sense.
I think then you stop blaming yourself, because everyone I've ever spoken to that's gone through any kind of sexual abuse or power abuse carries shame with them afterwards.
Absolutely.
and blames themselves. So you can step out of that, can't you, and start to be more proactive in realizing what your life could be.
Exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of the survivors that I've spoken to as well, there is a sense of confusion, and it's questioning why did it happen, and like you said, there's that blame. They blame themselves. I provoked him, or I shouldn't have done this, or but it's not your fault. It's got nothing to do with you. It's although you're in that situation, it's not your fault. You're not to blame. Yeah. Once you understand and make sense of what's happened to you in terms of going through the abuse, I think that helps you heal and come through that as well.
Yeah, because knowledge is power, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and once you really understand something, it helps you get through it.
It makes you slow down and to be able to make sense of the steps that you've got to take to be able to get through the other side, would you say?
Yeah, I think that even like when you are going through the abuse, or you might be triggered by something, and then you sort of reflect and you think, oh, like I understand why this is happening to me, and then you can remove yourself from that situation, or come away from that situation because you really understand it. You can make sense of it. It makes sense to you. You're not confused anymore.
No, you can see it.
Exactly. You'd recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You recognize it from what you've learned.
Exactly.
And then you're able to be in control of yourself and be able to see it, step away.
I think that's a good word, Robbi. Control. You take back that control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you feel like you don't have any control maybe over your emotions, maybe your actions, but you take back that control.
Definitely. And there's different types of perpetrators as well, aren't there?
Yes.
I've got a list of them here.
Yes. So there's 8 traits that I talk about in the program. So like you said, the bully, the jailer, the head worker, the persuader, the liar, the bad father, king of the castle, and the sexual controller. So they can interlock, so they could be all at the same time, or there could be stages to those traits, and all of those traits have different behaviors and different beliefs. Yeah.
Wow. Moving on to like the power of the community, really.
Yes, I think that obviously, because it's something that's very personal, and like you mentioned, they might feel shame. So obviously the first week is getting to know each other, breaking that ice and building that trust within one another. But there's something powerful about women coming together and sharing their stories. There's something empowering about that. And although every story is different, there's a similarity in each and every one of them. So coming together and sharing their stories, I think that in themselves, and they related to one another. And I think that sort of empowered them and built their confidence and self-esteem, and going away with that knowledge.
Do you think that it's one thing that we can do as a community is to not tell people to leave, to not tell women, and sometimes it's men, to leave the situation until they're ready?
Yes, I think that obviously as a friend, or as someone that's supporting someone else that's been abused, I think the instant reaction is, oh, just leave him or leave her. But it's not as easy as that. And also what you've got to realize as well is when that person is about to leave or leaves the perpetrator, that is when they're most at risk of being harmed, or life-threatening in some cases. So they have to have a plan. They have to have a safety plan to come away from that. It doesn't happen overnight.
I think I saw a quote on Solace. Solace, we fundraise for Solace, and they said that it takes the average person 7 years to leave their perpetrators, which is a long time, isn't it?
It's a very long time.
Yeah.
to go through that every single day.
Yeah.
And that battle, but 7 years is a long time. Yeah.
Is it daily when you're in that situation?
I think if it's not physically daily, it's definitely emotionally and mentally daily.
What else can we do as a community, as just people, to help?
The beliefs of men and women not being equal, the equality is embedded in our society. So I think that's to start to change that view and to...
How?
How? I know, this is the big question. This is the big question. I think it does definitely come from education, and also teaching our sons to respect everyone.
You've got 2 sons, haven't you?
I have. I've got 2 sons, and I really hope that I'm teaching them to be an ally and to just respect everyone equally.
I think it's important for the perpetrators to get help, because without help, then they're not going to change their patterns and behaviours and beliefs, are they? Which is at the heart of this problem.
Absolutely. I think there is help for perpetrators. I think there is programs for perpetrators as well. But I think they have to believe that there's a problem.
Sev, just to end this, what would you say to anyone going through this?
I would say, be your own hero. And I have a story here. If I can just read it out, it's going to be really quick.
No, not at all.
But it's something that stayed with me when I read it once upon a time. No pun intended. Okay, so once upon a time, there was an unmarried princess who ruled her land wisely and well. She made the laws, collected the taxes, and was loved by all her subjects. One day, she was sitting by her lake. A frog hopped out of the water. "Hello, princess," said the frog. "I am not really a frog at all," he continued. "I am in fact a handsome prince. A wicked witch turned me into a frog. However, if you kiss me, I will regain my handsome human form. I will then marry you. You can have my children and care for them. I would like about 8. You can wash my clothes and cook my meals. You can keep the palace clean and tidy. I will take over as ruler and enforce the laws. I will be king. I will collect the taxes and keep all the money. I will, of course, give you a generous allowance for household expenses." Later that night, when the princess was dining on sautéed frog legs and a tarragon cream and brandy sauce, she said to herself, "I don't fucking think so." Yeah, so educate yourself, get help if you need, but when it comes down to it, be your own hero.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening, and if you do need someone to talk to, please check out our Linktree on Instagram over at empower.cic, where there's a list of links to places you can find support. Thank you.